Hi, I'm Chris McFadgen and welcome to iWrite. In this month's episode, Andy, Megan and myself are joined by Stephanie Boyle. Stephanie is the head of data delivery at Code Clan. She's a data scientist who's got years of experience in training and designing data science boot camps and university curriculum for data scientists to have the right skills and qualifications to move into industry. Welcome to the show, Steph. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Megan and Andy, how have you been?
Yeah, good. We'll pretend we were good. We were just chatting before we came on of how we've had days, so we'll just say it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Chaotic energy in general across the entire industry, I feel. So we're just vibing with the rest of them and enjoying that.
Yeah, exactly. But no, good.
Good. Well, Steph, as always with our guests, we're going to start off with a wee teaser and do some quick fire questions around about data science. So I'll leave it to Andy and Megan to welcome you to the show and get us started.
Yep. So, Steph, the way we did this before, Chris rattled through them. So now what we're going to do is Megan and I will alternate, and we will absolutely judge you viciously based on your answers. So the first one is Python or R or another language?
I think my experience is you have to use whatever the person that pays your salary tells you to use. So, I had to use SAS for a long time when I worked in, that kind of thing. I think you should just use what you want to use. I think for data science, Python is probably more widely used and probably better, but I just do what you want is really my motto, if you can.
Amazingly diplomatic answer, I love it. Although you lose points for mentioning SAS.
Yeah, I was going to say the only wrong answer in a round with no wrong answers is SAS.
I agree. I agree. I remember reading something once that said that when you leave, stop using SAS, you start writing like proc please never again, and I would totally agree with that. It was horrible, but yeah, I worked in pharmaceuticals and they won't budge from it. So yeah.
God. There you go. Megan?
Swiftly moving on. Mac OS, Windows, or Linux?
Mac, but that's because that's what I use, and I don't know how to use Windows. So yeah. But again, I think the thing is just do what you can. I've seen people really struggle to use MacBooks, and if I'd just given them a Windows machine, they could have done their work 10 times faster. So yeah.
Amazing. Tableau or Power BI?
Tableau, because I've never used Power BI.
Okay. Fair.
But if I had to pick, I wouldn't use either. I would code a dashboard. So.
Really?
Yeah, I find it much easier. I had to do a Tableau workshop where I had 95 screenshots on how to recreate it, whereas if I just wrote it.
What would you code it in?
Well, I've used RShiny, I think that's good, or there's Python ones, like PyDash, we've used that before. So
okay.
Yeah, but that's also a steeper learning curve. So if you have to pick the point and click, Tableau.
On premises or cloud?
If I was working somewhere cloud, but the honest answer is if it's my own stuff, I very rarely bother. I just do stuff on my own stuff.
I was asked this by someone training up to be a data scientist, and they asked it from the viewpoint of feeling really guilty that they were using a local machine for stuff. Just use what you need.
Yeah, ideally it should be portable across platforms, right? But anyway, we'll talk about that later. Which cloud, Azure, AWS, or GCP? Have you used any of them or all of them? Or
I've actually only used AWS out of them. And I thought it was a little bit when I did the training in a nice way, like you had different hats you should be wearing based on which AWS thing you really, do you know what I mean? Like put you this one. That's the only one I've used, but I guess the other one that we used for the stuff we were doing at CodeClan was DigitalOcean. And the only reason I picked that is because you can actually set a turn-off cap to the money, and it was the work credit card, and I didn't need it for very much. So yeah, I'll go out the box and say I've only ever really used DigitalOcean in the last 2 years. So
left field, love it.
Yeah.
I like it when we get an answer that's not on the script.
I know. Makes me feel like I don't actually know as much as I think.
I know. The next one's really a linguistic question. Machine learning or artificial intelligence?
As if you're applying for money, I suppose you want to use artificial intelligence, right?
I love the honesty. This is good.
Well, it's true. And then I would call it machine learning. I don't use the term artificial intelligence.
Fair. Oh, DevOps or MLOps?
DevOps, but only because I think most people need DevOps and not everybody needs MLOps. Depending
Awesome
on
answer. It's good. I'm just taking notes for my next meeting. These are good one-liners, I think.
We're getting near the end now, so
Okay.
Home, hybrid, or office working?
Oh, controversial.
Mhm.
I would probably say hybrid, but that's for me. I would be like a 1 day a week. I go into the office 1 or 2 days a week, and it's mostly motivated by getting a decent coffee, getting a toasty, and seeing my friends. Not because it's I like the office. I don't like the commute, and I think they're very different. So yeah, it's a bit rich that I'm going to work entirely remotely soon, but go
Mm,
hybrid for me.
excellent. Right, last one. You'll be glad to know. Zoom, Teams, or Google Meet?
Zoom. Teams is awful. Teams is like a fussy baby that wants all your attention. Like I can't have Slack and Teams open on my computer at once because it just doesn't. It's like no.
It's a memory. Man.
Yeah,
You've heard it here, Microsoft. Teams is going down. Excellent. That was really good.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay.
I mean, our main takeaway message is shut down Teams. And I'm cool with that.
Shut down Teams and use DigitalOcean.
Well, DigitalOcean does what we needed to do, and it was very much motivated by credit cards. They weren't ours.
On code your own dashboards.
Yeah.
Such a brave thing to say. I just think.
Oops.
Love it. Brilliant.
Okay.
So yeah, so on the episode, what the main theme is pathways into machine learning. Stefan, that's why we brought you on, because you're a designated expert. But before we get really started on that, it'd be good to find out a bit about yourself. Why did you become a data scientist in the first place?
The genuine honest answer is by accident. I did my undergrad in psychology, and psychology was just collecting heaps of data on how humans behave in certain situations and like doing stats on it and like getting an answer. And I was lucky enough to do that at Glasgow Uni because they were switching all their sort of stuff from SPSS to R at that point. And so I kind of got a bit of coding. Then I finished, I didn't know what else to do. And someone said, have you thought about doing a PhD? And I didn't know what a PhD was, like genuinely, I'd never heard of it. And I said, okay, if I get it, I'll do it. And I got it. And then that ended up, I stayed at Glasgow to work with the person there. And he was doing like brain imaging, and he was applying like machine learning algorithms to the brain data to try and predict what people were seeing or hearing. So I did that for 4 years, and that was kind of data science without it being called data science. And then when I was leaving, I thought, well, I didn't want to stay in academia because I hated writing papers, and I wasn't motivated to find my own money to pay myself for the rest of my life. Like, I just wanted someone to hire me. So I was like, right, I'm going to go into industry. Went into pharmaceuticals, did that for a bit, and then started freelancing for a bit, and then ended up at CodeClan through that freelancing. And yeah, I think it's kind of been an accident, in the nicest possible way to say that without sounding incredibly like privileged and like everything else. But that is the genuine answer. I sort of fell into it.
I like that line about you didn't want to find money to pay yourself. That's a very good description of academia. I like that.
Yeah, I saw a lot of my friends doing it, and they were doing postdocs. And I had a postdoc, and I quit it the day before I started. I was meant to start it, because I got a job in pharmaceuticals. So bye bye.
Yikes.
Yeah.
What about yourselves, Andy, Megan? What was it why was it you became data scientist? Was it a natural path? Was it always written in the stars?
Written in the stars.
Like that?
So cheesy. I think it's for me, it was similar to Steph's a little bit. Well, I always thought I would be an academic physicist. That was my thing. Like, loved physics, wanted to do it, dreamed of being a professor for years. So I was very set on a PhD for years, went and did that. And then during it, I think I was quite lucky that my program at Imperial, they were strongly encouraging you to think about other careers. And they made it very plain to people. They provided us a lot of statistics saying that it's kind of like the Hunger Games in academia. They're like, the chance of you getting a permanent lectureship or professorship is very small, even being at such a good uni and stuff. So they were like, really think of other careers and expose this to people from industry and stuff. So that got me thinking. And then, yeah, I just started thinking similarly to you, Steph. I was just like, this isn't the right fit for me. I quite liked writing papers, but none of them ever get accepted and published. That was the problem. So I was kind of like, yeah, I just don't like this. And then I thought, data and coding is the bit I like about this. And there's maths involved and stats and stuff. But you can have such a wide range of applicability. You can apply it to anything. And that really got me excited. I think that was it for me.
Nice.
The main bit I identified with out of what you were saying, Steph, is the happy accident of finding the alternative. I don't really know what data science was. I just remember starting to see these job adverts and reading through what they appeared to involve. I was like, do you know what? I don't know what this is, but it seems to be the right thing. I definitely also identify with looking at the academic career path. Like the next step after a PhD is to basically kind of unplug yourself from your entire support network and everything that you've become familiar with through your PhD and go to another place to do short contracts and potentially keep doing that for like 5 to 10 years. I wasn't willing to be that flexible, to be honest. And I definitely just wanted the security of a long-term place to belong and to go and do work that I was interested in. And I felt like data science and industry just gave me all of those things. Lovely teams to work in. I've really, really enjoyed like the people side of it. I can't help but feeling like academia is quite, almost as a result of that Hunger Games aspect, a little bit dog eat dog. And it's not really like conducive to me doing well. I quite like having a big team of people around that are all aiming for the same thing and kind of want each other to succeed. And academia I didn't find that there. So yeah, happy accident. But
well, good. I mean, this is obviously why we're having today's episode, is to really discuss people from different backgrounds and different ways that they should move into data science and what's the why for them. But then it goes back to then, Steph. So then you talked about, obviously you fell into Code Clan from the consultant work that you were doing. What was it about helping others become data scientists? And if anybody doesn't know about Code Clan, how would you sort of describe that to them as a potential opportunity for them?
Yeah, so I think I went to a meetup, and it was a meetup or it was something. It might have even been Twitter. And Jo Watts, who runs Affini, she'd said to me, she'd put out something saying they were looking for writers for this data course. And I was doing freelance and stuff because I wanted a new bike. And I was like, oh, that might pay money towards this bike. So I went and chatted to them. And then I think I've taught at a university. Like I taught programming and stuff during my PhD for years. And there's like, that's such a standard way for people to get in if you're in Scotland because it's free and stuff. But I saw a whole heap of people that weren't suited to that. And I thought this could be cool. Like Code Clan essentially is meant to be there for the people that can't get into university or have had like long career breaks and can't afford to spend 4 years or like can't afford to spend a year doing something. And it's meant to be these little intensive training courses. So I liked that aspect of it. I liked that it was trying to get people that wouldn't have a chance into these kind of things. I think tech can be quite gatekeepery a lot of the time, and it just seemed like Code Clan, aside from the fact there are boot camps that take a lot of time, is a bit more of a gate opener type of thing. It's a place where a lot of people from industry go to help others. I've had so much help to get where I am, and I feel like it's important to kind of do that back. And then I was getting a bit at the pharmaceutical company. I liked it, but I'd got promoted and I was just doing paperwork. I wasn't doing any programming or anything anymore. And there was this chance to go and learn all these really cool things with this like team of 12 software dev and data scientists that were all writing this like cool new course. And I thought, yeah, I should do this. Yeah, it just seemed like a nice environment as well. I remember going in actually to the office for like the demo thing. They said, come and see one of the software boot camps to see if you'd like it before you want to come. And I remember sitting in the back of the class and I just remember thinking, this is absolutely chaotic. This is wild. I was like, there's like 20 people, they're all live coding. There's instructors just rolling about being like, oh, we'll just do this instead, just ignore those things. And I was like, how on earth does this get done? But then at the end of the day, all these students were like working together, pair programming, like I was like, okay, there's something here. There's organized stuff to this chaos. This might be quite fun. So
So there was organised stuff there. It wasn't, you weren't just there on a bad day when everyone was off their heads.
no,
Okay.
that is every day, but underneath there's definitely organization. It just was so different than a uni. Like it was just a completely, students were just like, do this instead, and the instructors were like, all right, okay, let's do that instead, and like the whole lesson just went a different way. But then once you work there, you realize that's exactly what it's meant to be like. So yeah.
I absolutely love that. I feel like that's so much more like real life experience. Like I literally came into the podcast saying my day's been chaotic. Like work is chaotic quite often, and the thing you think is going to solve the problem, half the time it doesn't the first time you try it. And it must be such a kind of independent and eye-opening learning experience for all these people to just realize that the instructor doesn't always know the answer. You can make great suggestions without like having a degree behind you.
Yeah.
It's empowering.
I think that's why the students that go through that bootcamp end up really ready for work, because essentially by the end of 3 months, actually a recruiter said this to me once, I can't remember, I think it was Liam, and he said, oh, so they've been like pair programming with like a senior dev or a senior data scientist for 3 months. I was like, oh yeah, like I mean, yes, that's exactly what we do.
We meant that.
Because it's all live coding, it's not like anything else, so it really shows you that not everybody knows anything and you can do whatever. And yeah, it's like it's a good way in for people, I think. Caveats being, obviously, it's very time intensive, it costs money. Thankfully there's a lot of funding kicking around right now, but not everyone has 50 hours a week to spend on a boot camp. So that's my caveat. It's a good way in if you've got the time. So
what's the typical person that like is a success story through this kind of thing? Like what's the makeup of an individual that you'd be like, yeah, you should join us, this is for you, you'll get a lot out of it?
So when I do interviews for people, like CodeClan doesn't have an entry requirement as in like grades, but it's about keenness, and do you really want this? Because boot camps are only successful, like every boot camp kind of teaches the same variation of stuff, like some of them will be more up to date than others potentially, but boot camps are successful because they ride on the network that boot camp has. Like people know CodeClan's reputation and the partners like FanDuel and Skyscanner and stuff. Like you hear that and you go, oh well, I might hire them. So the people we're looking for are the people that are going to lean into that process like the most. You can't just sit there at a boot camp and do the bare minimum and get something and get a job at the end. Like you have to really engage with it and say, yeah, I'll come to speed networking. Yeah, I'll go to that event. I'll go to that talk. I'll go to the mentoring, like Andy's done mentoring. And it's the ones that come and ask the questions are the ones that stand out. And they're usually the ones that get the most out of it. So there's never any tech requirements other than can you use a computer? But it's really like, why do you want this? Because I've interviewed people that like, they've not even come to the interview. It's been like their parents or their husbands. I'm still waiting for someone's wife to come and do the interview for them. That'd be amazing. But that for us is like, no. And they go, why? We'd pay the money. I'm like, yeah, but that's not, we don't just accept everyone that pays us money, So
Isn't
yeah.
that amazing that people send their spouses to interviews? I might try that.
That's more than once that's happened. And I've been like, I don't think they send their spouse. I think it's their spouse comes for them. And a lot of the time it's mothers coming for their children, and you're like,
amazing.
I think if they can't come to the interview, they're not going to manage like 50 hours a week.
50 hours a week. Do you ever get people joining it who don't have a degree or kind of previous thing? Are they like, are there school leavers and stuff, or what's kind of the spread of intake? Yeah,
we used to have a minimum age, which was 18 was the minimum we would take, just because it's so intense. Like it's 9 to 5, and there's homework as well. No, I think when I looked at, there was a presentation on this, and it's different for software dev than it is for data. The demographics are different in who comes. But I think like less than half had a degree. Most people had never worked in tech.
Wow.
Hospitality and music were the biggest industries that people were coming from. And then the travel industry last year was the biggest one that people came to retrain. But yeah, I would say most people don't. The data course is a little bit different. We get quite a lot of PhDs coming on that because they've maybe done a PhD, but they haven't done programming, and they realise now that to get into what they want, they need to learn coding. So yeah, surprising number of PhDs that come through the data course, actually.
It's a wild variance from school leaver to just finished a PhD. Like how do you make it all kind of land with that massive variety in previous experience? Do you like just try to go from the start, or like how does it work?
Yeah, it is really different. Weeks 1 and 2 are always, like if you make that, I have a friend, Bill, who used to describe it as driving a bus at 70 miles an hour with the back door open and seeing like people to the left. But like first 2 weeks first 2 weeks are hard for everyone, which it sounds bad when I'm about to say it helps, but like the new environment, you've maybe not been in education for like 20 years. New people, new cohort, new tech, new system. Like most of them have never used GitHub. That's our first lesson. That's a real leveler. Like all this stuff is so new for everyone that it makes this like bonding experience week 1, and then they have a social week 1 Thursday because there's no homework. That usually bonds, and then everyone kind of
less productive on the Friday, Steph. Are they?
They start at 10 on a Friday, which is a little bit better. But you do see some of them just come in like, but it's really, really difficult. It is. I thought that was the dog, sorry. It's really, really difficult to get everyone the same, and you're never going to do it. But what you find is because CodeClan's live coding, like there's always one instructor coding, and there's a few instructors floating around to debug. But what naturally happens is some of the slightly stronger students in one area, because we do a lot of group work, sort of pick up a couple. But the nice thing about the bootcamp is most people that are really good at coding part might not actually be very good at the business part or the dashboard part. So like everyone finds their niche, and you try and remind the people that maybe have been working for 20 years and are sitting next to a 16-year-old that's like coding. You say, yeah, but you can like send a business email without thinking. Like I will have to help them do that when we get to that point, So it's like everyone finds it, but it is hard. It's hard. So
it's amazing the skills you forget you've picked up until you start working with someone that's straight out of school, and then you go, this is what a meeting is, and this is how you like speak to people who are your senior, and it's a lot of experience that you've picked up and you just don't even notice that you've got it.
Was that not something you wanted to explore, Megan, about apprenticeship programs and how they maybe differ, or what our thoughts are collectively on them?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've been invested in quite a lot because we're about to hire a few new apprentices, which I'm very excited about. But the BBC have schemes across quite a lot of different kind of industries and sets of expertise where they bring on people for apprenticeships for like 3-4 years. For undergrads, a couple of years for master's equivalents, all different levels, and it goes right from like production skills to software engineering to data science and so on. But it typically, the focus for me is trying to get someone who really doesn't know what data science means at all up to the point of they are excelling at it and they are a data scientist like through and through. And I've found it's really, really difficult to find like who would be the best person to give that opportunity. So I was so fascinated to ask you like how you can spot people, and the keenness that you suggest was really important. I'm just trying to figure out the differences here. So I'm asking a really long commitment from people, like 3-4 years sometimes, going to courses for the entire duration. What do you think about that as like an alternative path, and how would you like point people one direction or the other?
Yeah, so I get this quite a lot we do like open sessions, and people come, we do like a little 2 hours coding, and people always say like, should I do this, or should I do a master's, or should I do this? And the honest answer is like, which way do you like to learn? Like, I don't think I could learn in a boot camp, and that sounds so weird because I teach one. It's so much. I'm such a slow learner. Like, I really struggle with learning, but I think that's why I'm a good teacher, because I can really empathize. It's so much, but some people really thrive in that environment. And I say to them, if you don't think you are one of those people, I think you should think of slower, longer, more time to digest. And I think the nature is it's like self-selecting, right? Like the people that come and get on a boot camp that are like keen and like super enthusiastic are going to be the people that have the stamina to do 50 hours a week. Like if you ask someone about a longer one, they might be more like talking about investment and low key and like that kind of stuff. So I think it's very, very difficult to pick out, and you actually don't know until you try. I suppose we have a lot of students come on, and I say a lot of the students come on and realize it's not for them, and we give the money back, or we defer them to a cohort that's starting in another few months because they just need a few months to get up. So sometimes you just have to go for it, don't you? If you never, what does it say? If you never jump, you always stay still. So sometimes you just got to make people go for it. Yeah.
What's the time frame, sorry, for the boot camp? How long do they last?
Well, so we've got different ones. The software one is 16 weeks. The data one is 14 weeks. There's now a part-time software one, which is 20 weeks. And there's going to be a part-time data one as well, which will obviously be a lot longer. And we do other ones like CodeClan is, I think they've just paired up with Tigers. We do like modern apprenticeship type things and stuff. So yeah, there's various levels, but I think the idea is always to get you in work as fast as possible rather than teach you everything.
That there was two things then. So firstly, the data course, how much software engineering does that incorporate?
See, I want to say none because I feel like I know nothing about software engineering, but I don't know if that's actually true because it was written by a bunch of software devs plus us, and some of the software devs go and teach it and vice versa. So we do like the principles of everything, like in terms of if you're learning Python, you'll learn about object-oriented programming first, and we do things like GitHub and version control and testing and all this kind of stuff that we think is important that probably would be typically in some sort of software course. But now I see it as part of data. Like if you don't know how to do version control, I'm not entirely sure like you'd get too far in some companies. So yeah. I think there's a mix.
I think that's a hard question to answer because the lines are just blurred in every single direction. Like the definition of a title changes company to company. The skills that it actually requires under the hood are like totally different in some domains. Yeah. I don't know how to answer that for my job ads that are topped with the words data science. I wouldn't know how to answer the question of how much software engineering do they need. A lot, probably.
All of it.
Yeah.
What would you say then, Steph, for an undergrad who maybe came from a STEM background or whatever background and they want to get into data science industry and they had an option of some sort of MSc in a data related course or the boot camp? What's the comparison?
I think that's so hard. And I think who was I talking to this about? It might have been someone, but I was saying like I think that in data science it's changing. But there's still this, I don't want to say snobbery, that's not what I mean, but it's seen as quite cool to be a homegrown software dev and have no academic background. I don't think the same can be said for data science right now. I think there's still this element of, well, you didn't go to uni, but you want to be a data science in some companies. But over the last 2 years, I've seen some companies take out the degree requirement from job ads and stuff like that. So I think it's changing. So my only thing is sometimes a lot of the job ads say you need a PhD or a master's. Sometimes when I've gone to ask them, they've been like, oh, I think HR probably wrote that. So you can maybe, or boot camp equivalent is something that's coming in more. I think it's really difficult to say that though, like learning, money, time, plus job prospects.
And spoiler alert, it's never actually HR. Let's be honest.
Never actually HR.
I know.
They probably put it in, they just put it in 10 years ago now and forgot about it. I'd say any degree requirement should just get in the bin. Yeah. Absolutely.
I kind of agree with that. I think it should be about what you can do.
Yeah.
And then sometimes for some people, like degrees are good evidence of that or whatever.
Yeah, it's definitely not about saying that a degree isn't a valuable
exactly. It's the flip side.
Skill set. It's the other side. It's like that you assume you couldn't pick up the necessary traits without a 4-year PhD. Like we all know, having done that is crazy. That does not.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think I like the way you phrased it, Steph, about I think that's so important. I think just kind of thinking about what is it that you're actually trying to get to, and I do think there is some gatekeeping. I think you could call it snobbery. I think you're right. I like the way you said it. Kind of, it's cool as a software developer to be homegrown and just build stuff. I really want it to be that way for data and ML and all this stuff,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, that's what's important, right? I, as a hiring manager, you come to me with all the degrees in the world for all the best unis in the world, but you can't build me the ML pipeline or the data engineering pipeline I want. Do I really care? Whereas if you're like, I don't know, I'm 18, I'm 20 or whatever, and I've just learned it on YouTube, but I can code like hell and I can build you really robust, amazing systems. It's going to be you that makes the business kind of creates their value and helps make products that help customers and things. So it's not. Yeah, I'm totally in that camp as well, Megan. I think it has to change. I think hopefully it is changing, like you're saying, Steph, but I think it could go a lot faster. I think apprenticeships, actually coming back to the previous point, are a big part of that. I think normalizing that as a route in is important, and making technology not seem like an academic discipline, but more of a kind of a vocational thing almost. Like, you know, it should, to me, that makes sense. Other countries get this quite right. I think Germany's quite good at this. They have like massive amounts of vocational training, and vocational training is seen as kind of equally respectable as the academic thing. Don't think we're quite there in the UK yet. But
I think the one thing though to go back on for both the boot camps and the apprenticeships is they're a big ask. They're a really big ask of people commitment wise. Like going through a traditional degree program, you don't have to go to a workplace and learn all of the dynamics and kind of embed yourself in a team in the same way as you do when you're taking on an apprenticeship. The same way with a boot camp, like you are going over and above the full-time requirements of a typical job to kind of accelerate your journey. Like both of these routes require so much commitment. There's almost like something missing even in those spaces of like, how do you just like gently move into the direction of these new disciplines rather than having to over kind of commit in terms of time and effort just to make the transition? I want it to be easier than these things.
Could you make apprenticeships less intense or something? Because I always think like for a school leaver, like you're right, Megan, there's so much to just learn about just navigating the working world. Never mind learning about machine learning or something. So I think, if there's, be open to people's ideas, but I think if there's a way to slow that onboarding, it's definitely a good thing.
I think we've just not got it right for school leavers just now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the places where things seem to be going a wee bit better are probably the apprenticeships that are for masters. Like those are people that have probably got a little bit of a balance of like workplace experience and some of the stuff that would cover the undergrad knowledge. And then they get to do a master's typically over a slightly like longer time frame than if they went just into the master's on its own. That's kind of like optimal in a learning experience. And then you look at the undergrad apprenticeships and the boot camps and it's like, wow, like that's a lot. I don't think I could do that. The same way as you said, Steph, like you feel like you're slow at learning. I just feel like I don't have it in me to commit that many hours a day. It doesn't even matter if I feel like I could learn it. It breaks all of them.
The undergrad apprenticeship program, what's the split? What's the balance?
Well, Cali Uni, Glasgow Caledonian Uni, I only know this because I was on like their industrial panel. I was on like their panel reviewing the curriculum, but they do a kind of really good undergraduate apprenticeship program that's just kind of went online for data science, where I think they do 3 placements a year or 2 placements a year or something, but it basically works out as kind of, or maybe it's one placement a year over the 3 or 4 years or something. So I don't know the exact split, but it basically works out in kind of semester chunks, and they do really work-based stuff. And then
I think it's the same with Glasgow Uni and Edinburgh Uni as well. Like there's programs where like you're kind of doing lecture courses in bursts, and then you've got workplace days. They all slightly change the scheduling of it, but I mean, just to recap though, you're still at the end of the 4 years expected to have obtained the same academic qualification as a typical 4-year degree program. So they're still like, if you're to really like dig in, there's something extra that we're asking in these individuals.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
You kind of need a pre-graduate program. You know, like a lot of companies do a graduate program where you kind of you take people who already have degrees. It seems to me that's kind of usually quite slow on ramping into professional life. You need that same thing for school leavers, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is at school, like when I left school, I was like I'm done. Like, I don't want to sit any more exams. I don't want to do anything. I just want to like.
How did that go, Steph? I don't want to set any more exams.
Yeah,
and then...
I left school at 16. I didn't go to uni until I was 21. So that is good context for how mine went.
Is that right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a really, really nice few years, like just working and bumming about. It was really good. But I think that's the problem. I've got like brothers and sisters that are that age, and like school seems so hard now, and they need so much just to get into uni that like by the time they're there, they're like, I'm gobbled. I just want to get drunk with my friends all summer and do nothing, and like that seems to be the vibe. Which I get. Being a like young person is very hard right these days. So, but yeah. Obviously mine is I didn't go to uni till I was 21. So.
I love that story. We should talk about things like that more. No, we should.
I was going to say that I think most people would benefit from a gap year between schooling, at least a year, and working full time to experience whatever that might be, then to go back to uni and do their undergrad.
Just remove the pressure of going to uni, I think. Like, tell people because you're right, Steph, I think there's just so much there's just a really kind of stress, anxiety thing boiling under the surface for kids now. And I mean, I thought it was intense when I was at school, but now you sort of speak to people who are a lot younger than you, and they're just like, you just feel like it's all or nothing. And if I don't get any uni, what am I going to do? And you're like, it's never the end of it. Like, get your whole life. Yeah.
I feel like I never felt that pressured, but I was always in this big rush. And now looking back, I don't understand. Like, I started uni when I was 17, and like, why did I bother doing that? And every step of the way, it was like trying to do things as quickly as possible, as if there was a timer on it all, and trying to finish your PhD was all an exercise, and like how quickly could you get out of the door? It's like, just slow down, find ways to like finance it and slow it down and get the pace that suits you. I never got that right. Hands up. Never got that right.
Yep.
What are so interesting, Steph, the questions to you, but I'm going to ask Megan and Andy their opinion first of all. So what would you say the key sort of technical skills that somebody who was going to encounter a boot camp or an apprenticeships program that they need, the fundamental skills that they need to learn to become a data scientist? And then I'll find out obviously if Steph's been teaching them.
For me, I kind of have to be careful here because I help write job specs that may go against what I'm going to say, but I kind of feel like Megan's point sort of almost still stands in a way. I think the key I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you hire for attitude, you can teach skills. I totally believe that. I think if somebody, to your point earlier, Steph, if they're keen and they're hungry and they just seem with it, I'm kind of confident to take a chance on them most of the time, if they pass the kind of personality litmus test as well, which is important in teams, right? You can't come and destroy.
I'm going to record you and send it to all the hiring managers that reject all my interviews.
I know. But I'd say kind of if you're really pushing for technical stuff, it is some of the stuff Steph mentioned. So I think version control, understanding what that means, how do you use it, fluency, or not even fluency, but just some sort of intermediate or beginner knowledge of programming languages, specifically one of the ones that are heavily used, so Python, R, Scala, etc. I think as well, the big thing for me is an appreciation of one end-to-end system means. So I kind of, that's a bonus, I would say, because a lot of people go through degrees or they do online courses or whatever, and it's all notebook based, which is absolutely fine. But I think an appreciation that that's never the end point in reality. Like if you're going to build the next voice assistant, you're not going to get all the way to voice assistant level just using notebooks, right?
I will say also, before anyone panics, some people go through decades of their career before they move beyond that stage.
No, it's so true, right? And that sometimes is fine, but I think that's kind of thing I look for. I think so. Just kind of comfort with the basic concepts of software, some of which Steph was outlining, and then on the data side, I think just understanding, if you're in a sort of data science role, you'll be exposed to machine learning, and just sort of understanding and getting what that is, and just having some examples of having had a go at it, cranking the handle. Have you trained something? Have you done a test validation split? Have you looked at, the confusion matrix, things like that? But sometimes it's very, for junior roles, it's very much, if you had a go at these things, it's not any level of real hardcore competency.
There's one thing that I'm really looking for, which is that people have learned how they learn. Like that they know if they encounter something that feels totally brand new and they don't really understand what's going on, that they know themselves what they would go and do to like close the gap, get past it and figure it out. Like the industry changes so quickly. Knowing something in detail, in 2 years' time, that can be completely irrelevant, and you have to be able to then move on to the next thing and go and learn it. And it's difficult for me to say that, because how do you demonstrate that at an interview, like the ability to go learn something? But I think that's quite key. Is I'm looking for someone that's got like an openness to keeping adding to their skill set, and this like recognition that you're never quite finished. Like I definitely don't know all, and every single day learn a different acronym or see a new tool in action, and they kind of need to be open to that as well a bit.
Agreed.
But yeah, how do you spot that in a CV, Chris? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like saying like boot camps. Like this is why people say they hire from Coolclan, because if you do boot camp, by definition, you're proving that you can't. Yeah, nobody can learn everything, but you can learn anything. Like if you go and learn 14 weeks worth of stuff, that's what the people say. You've got all these projects on GitHub, and you've done all these things, and they're like, okay, well, yeah, I get it. Like they clearly are showing me that you do all these personal projects so you can learn it, and maybe that's it. Because I say to them, we give them data sets and stuff and say, this is what we've got. We know that you can build a model, but if you'd rather do your own stuff, like do that instead. Because it's not like a uni where you need to mark it. You just say, it's a cool project. Show that at an interview, like that kind of thing. I think is sometimes good to spot having a go at stuff. Also, someone put Googling on their CV, and I thought that was really good. I was like, yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah, finally the truth.
I read that CV and I was like, for a student, I was like, oh yeah, you've listened to us, because we tend to tell them if we're doing stuff in a lab and they come to us, they have to answer like 3 things. You have to say what error did you get, what did you try, and what did you Google? And if they tell us those things, we say, okay, now we'll help you. Like, because sometimes they come up and like, help. I'm like, what? That's not how it works.
I love that. That's good. Yeah. Other search engines are available.
Are they?
I think at a more experienced level, though, that's still a problem for data scientists. So if they don't have a particular skill set and they've done personal projects on GitHub or whatever it might be, and they're trying to self-develop, I think there's too many people out there that won't accept that without it being attributed to some sort of commercial project. So I mean, I think that is still an issue across the industry.
That is totally an issue. I can say that because I like people, by the time this comes out, I will have a new job. Like I've literally just been through this process of having a new job, and a lot of the people were saying, because I've been teaching at a boot camp for 2 years, I had no relevant industry experience like recently. And I was like, it's fair enough, man. Like it is fair enough. And even the job that I've got, I'm going to an outdoors app. They were like, it's clear you knew nothing about app analytics, but you were very enthusiastic, so we like you. And do you know what I mean? It's a problem across the board, like with everyone trying to keep up with how fast everything changes. And I've been out of industry 2 years, and I'm out of date as a senior. I've got a senior role now, but it was kind of an awakening for me. I was like, what pressure must it be for juniors to crack into this field if like me that's been doing this since like 2009 is having somewhat a negative response from big companies.
I think hiring managers got to do a better job. Like, the variety of what people are doing to upskill, like you need to be across all of it. You need to be able to spot someone who's gone in, like applied a new skill set to a domain that you're not familiar with, and you've got to spot someone who's been able to take a master's program and not just do what they were told, like really apply it somewhere and spot that, because it's such a valuable gift. If you can find employees like that, like they are amazing. But if you're not willing to look and you're not willing to like click that link into their GitHub and go learn a wee bit more about what they've tried to do, I feel like you're just not doing your job quite well enough.
And it's a whole chicken and egg thing. Like if you're at the start, how can you possibly prove you've got commercial experience? You
Yeah,
can't. It's just
I
silly.
know. It is really hard, and I think the pandemic made people very nervous about hiring juniors. We saw a massive drop off in like
Yeah.
the junior level, and now we've got more jobs than students, which is unbelievable because they're going back. But you know, I'm one of these people that thinks if you invest in your juniors, you're going to end up with teams of very talented seniors that like working for you. But people seem put off a wee bit about juniors, like, oh, they've got no experience. I was like, yes, give them experience and they will have experience. You know. But
Yeah.
Well, I think lastly, to close it off, so for any sort of piece of advice from any or all three of you, for somebody out there who's maybe thinking about changing career, or wants to become a data scientist and wants to get involved in a boot camp or apprenticeships program or a master's in a subject that was going to support that, what would that be?
Steph, you go first. You're the expert.
I would say do it. Like, I think ignore some of the hype and stuff that you see online. Like, at the bleeding edge is always going to be on LinkedIn and Twitter, and the reality is very different. Like, you can be a nice human being with sort of basic level numerical literacy and really enthusiastic about what you do, and you will do very well, because Scotland is like small enough that it's supportive and everyone's nice, but it's big enough there's lots of opportunities, like loads. It's never been a better time to do it, because everything, the tech bubble is increasing, but it will burst. You know, like, do it now. It's really nice. Reach out for help. People are lovely. And yeah, just believe in yourself a bit, because it's not as scary as it seems. And I say that as someone who's like regularly scared about how competent the people I teach are compared to me sometimes. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Amazing. Anything to add on that, guys? Are we
Yeah,
close the
I
show
think
here?
totally agree with that. I think the one thing I kind of thought about was, and it maybe relates to your point earlier, Megan, about kind of rushing through life a bit. I think it's important people don't think their first job's the last job they'll ever have as well, and kind of remember it's a journey. So like, even if your first job isn't quite data scientist at very fancy company, it's data analyst at some company down the road, that's still an inroads into that world of data, and it's stuff you can leverage. And then you do your side projects and you say, look, I'm a data analyst, day by day I write these SQL queries, build these dashboards, but look, on my side I've been doing sklearn pipelines. That's in my GitHub. That's kind of a good inroad as well. So I would say don't, as the title's pathways in machine learning, right, don't write off any of the pathways, I think.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Andy, because if they did stay in the one job for life, I'd be redundant. So
Very redundant.
I'll take up podcasts for a living. Everybody will be disappointed if that happens.
Yeah, I feel like I've got nothing more to add other than go for it. Try do a thing you enjoy. Like, if you really are hating where you're at and you've chosen like a learning path and it's just not working for you and feels like a real grind, find the thing that you do enjoy and focus on how you make it happen, and it will surely work out for you.
Very inspiring. Well, brilliant. Thanks again, guys. Steph, it was great to have you on, and I look forward to catching up with you all soon. Cheers.